So, what I had been saying was that there's usually two main things that are happening when I hear people say that they are stuck. And also, y'all, can you let me know that that you're back and you can see me? Because I would love to know that this is actually coming through. So thank you. Say hi. So the first one is that dilemma piece, right? Our three core needs are being pitted against one another. They're being pitted against one another. So my I can't make a choice. Oh, good, it's coming through. Okay. I can't make a choice. I can't make a choice. How do I make a choice? All of these choices suck. I don't want to make one of these choices. So that is why it is important for us to be able to recognize when we are dysregulated and when we are being presented with a dilemma. Because a lot of times we tell ourselves we're stuck, and this has to do with not just our nervous system feeling really scared. When our nervous systems feel really scared, when we feel like there's a threat to our survival, even if it's not an actual threat, but it's something potential, right? Like, oh, I could say this thing to my boss and I could lose my job and then I wouldn't have money and then I couldn't support these things, my kids or my family or whatever. That feels terrifying. That feels really scary in our nervous systems. And that leads to what we refer to as dysregulation. It leads to your nervous system actually working in a different way than it does when you feel like you have options that don't violate your needs. Okay. So, a lot of times, this is a perception issue. This is a perception issue. And what I mean by that is that your past painful experiences, what you have been taught about life and about your needs and how they are allowed and how it is possible and how it is or isn't safe for them to be met, that determines your perceived choices. So many times when I have clients who come to me who tell me they are stuck, and we start having a conversation and I tune into what's going on in their bodies with their nervous system and the stories. And when I say stories, I do not mean that condescendingly, right? The thoughts, the stories that their brain is coming up with, the way in which their brain is perceiving reality, right? Because the way I perceive reality isn't necessarily the way that reality is. And actually, I have a perfect example of this that I will share with you in a minute that happened today. And when we think about, okay, well, if my entire life I've been taught that you have to have a stable job, and if you don't have a stable job, it is a threat to your safety, then the thought that I'm going to go to my boss and have this conversation with them of, hey, I really actually something needs to change here because my needs aren't being met. The thought of that is going to feel so terrifying and so wrong that you can't consider that as a choice versus someone else who's been taught and had past positive experiences of, hey, you know what, you're really good at getting a new job if this job doesn't work for you. They're going to feel a lot safer coming to that boss and saying, hey, this isn't working for me. They're not going to feel stuck or trapped because their choices aren't violating their needs. They know in their brain, oh, well, if my boss decides that they can't meet my needs, then maybe there's another option. Maybe there's a compromise. Maybe there's a mutually beneficial agreement here that we can make. If my boss says, no, you can't have that, and if you need that, you're fired, then I can go, wow, okay, I really don't want to work here. And so I'm going to work here for a couple more weeks. And while I'm looking for another job, because I trust I can get another job. It's safe for me to get another job. And there's so many pieces and parts in this, right? There's so many pieces and parts in this. I have had people come to me and say, I can't, I'm stuck. I can't move. And I want to make this decision, but I can't make this decision. One of my favorite stories is a client. And I've had this happen more than once. If you hear me tell stories about clients, I don't typically tell stories about clients that multiple clients can go, was that me? Because I think that's important. And so if you ever hear me tell a story about a client, it's either with expressed explicit consent, like they've told the story before already, or it's an amalgamation of clients. It's something that's happened to multiple clients. And I've had this happen where I have a client in front of me that's like, I really want to work with you, but I can't, right? And what's happening is that there's a dilemma. There's a dilemma happening. Their nervous system is saying, you can't pay her all of that money. You can't take money out of savings. You can't do that. That's unsafe, because what we've learned, our past painful experiences, our conditioning teach us that that's not safe. So you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that, even though you really want to do it. And so when you don't do it, you're going to be mean to yourself. You're going to go, oh, I really wish that I could go and do this thing, but I can't because of the stories I know about money. And so I've had this with clients where they'll say, yeah, I really want to hire you, but. And what that tells me right there is I really want to make this decision, but there's a dilemma. There's a dilemma. Two or more of their needs are being pitted against one another. And it's going to feel like a violation of their needs either way they choose. And so they're going to choose the safer option. They're going to choose staying stuck, staying trapped, staying in the same spot rather than trying to do something to move them forward, because in order to move forward, the thing that they need to do feels so scary to them that they can't make the move. So the answer is not to push them into making the move or manipulate them into making the move. The answer also isn't to back off and go, oh, okay, well, that's fine, right? You don't have to work together. It's okay. Or, oh, I'll just give you it for free. That's not the answer. That's our own dilemma right there, right? That's not the answer. The answer is, how can we approach this with curiosity? Because these aren't the only two options. When we find ourselves trapped in a dilemma, we can either change how we look at it, change our options, or decide that the current situation does meet our needs. So we can go, you know what? Yes, I know I was taught that you need to have $10,000 in savings. And if I invest this $10,000, I still have this 5,000 over here, or I still have this, or maybe I don't have anything. And I actually feel comfortable with that, because I can feel comfortable with that. I can hold that distress tolerance, because I recognize that without making this move, I am like, this is the thing I need in order to be able to move forward. So I can either have $10,000 in the bank, or I can go ahead and trust myself and I can do this. And if it doesn't work, or if it fails, or it doesn't work out, I will figure it out. Hear that? I will be able to handle it. Most people do not have this level of distress tolerance. And if you don't have it, that's okay. I didn't have it for a very long time. I was in dilemmas all the time. I was constantly having my needs pitted against each other. I was constantly feeling like I was choosing between a rock and a hard place, because I didn't understand how to get my nervous system to relax, to be able to recognize that my body was trying to protect me by keeping me stuck, because both or all options felt dangerous. I didn't know how to get myself back into a more regulated place that I could then approach the situation with curiosity and ask one of my very favorite questions. What am I not seeing? What else could happen? It's two questions, but two of my favorite questions, right? These are the only two things that could happen. These are the only two outcomes. These are the only two choices. What am I not seeing? What other choices could there be? And then, right, like what else could happen? My brain's telling me that no matter which one of these I choose, it doesn't work out. Is that actually true? And most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's not true. It's just your nervous system is so activated, it's so triggered, it's so on alert that it can't see anything else. That is by design. That is for your immediate protection. Again, your nervous system isn't designed to bring you long-term fulfillment. It is designed to keep you safe in the moment. Our nervous systems weren't designed for us to live an average of 75 years with relatively little danger coming at us. Our nervous systems were designed for a much shorter lifespan and a lot more danger. So it is our job now, as we evolve and as we change and as we really bring in this human component of our brain and of our nervous system, to learn how to calm the heck down, to learn how to regulate. You are stuck because you don't know how to regulate. You are trapped because you don't know how to regulate. You don't know how to get yourself back to a state where you can be curious and you can ask yourself questions. This is what we teach. This is the work we teach. Okay? This is what we teach. This is what you learn in our TRIPS conference. This is what we're going to talk to you about. This is what we're going to give you practical ways of doing, by the way. So that's the first way. That's the first thing we can mean when we say we're stuck. The second thing we can mean is that we're aimless. Jordan Peterson, like him, don't like him, whatever. It's a good quote. Okay. Feel your feelings about him or anyone that I ever bring into conversations. You are welcome to have your opinions about those people. And the quotes that I use, the examples I use are good. They're helpful. So I use them. How rude, right? Jordan Peterson says this. He says, the most terrifying thing for a human, besides being trapped, is being aimless. It's the opposite of having no available options. And instead, we feel like there are too many options. He uses the example of being dropped in the desert and not being able to see anything around you. Being blindfolded, flown out to the desert, dropped down, and told to find land. What direction do you go? How do you know which way to walk? Actually, my mother, whom I just freaking adore, and she is in healthcare, and she's been sharing a lot about our TRIP conference and our foundational program, and she's the best. She actually sent me a post earlier today from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and she was like, oh, this would be really good for you to use. And I was like, I know where I'm going to use that. It's a story about how when bison can tell that a winter storm is coming, they walk into the storm. And the reason that the bison walk into the storm is because they know it's the fastest way to get through the storm. If I stand there and wait for the storm, then I have to wait for the storm to blow past me. However, if I see the storm approaching and I walk into it and I know how to keep myself safe through the storm, I'm going to get through it faster. How many of you feel aimless and you're not moving in a direction because you're afraid you're going to hit a storm? How many of you are standing still because you're like, well, I don't know what happens if I walk that direction, and I think that might be the right direction, but I'm not really sure, and I don't know about this, and right? What if I hit a storm? What if I hit a hard part? What if I don't go the right direction? What if I don't make the right move? What if I make a mistake? What if I make a mistake? Which, by the way, notice, when we feel trapped, it's every option is a mistake. When we feel aimless, it's any option could be a mistake. Every option minus one could be the wrong option. And hear me, this is the shift. What if you decided, and what if you did the work, the emotional regulation work, and the mindset work, and the embodiment work, and the practical work to really feel that no matter what direction you go, no matter what storm you walk into, no matter what happens, you can handle it. You'll be okay. You'll be good. And yeah, you might get knocked down. And yeah, some really bad stuff, some really awful stuff might happen. And guess what? That's life. That's life. This idea that you're going to be able to avoid pain by standing still, the storm's still gonna come, babe. You're not going to be able to avoid pain by standing still. Instead, you're going to run out of food. You're going to not have water. You're going to and then somebody's going to, 50 years later, find you and go, oh, that person got really lost. How'd they end up all the way out here? Why didn't they just start walking in any direction? Some of you, and I want to be very clear here, okay? If you are either of these people or both of these people, I feel you. I see you. I hear you. I was you. I still am you sometimes. The reason why I'm so passionate about this work, especially for leaders, is because y'all are asked to make some really big decisions. Y'all are dropped in the middle of the desert all the time. I just cried. You ready for some vulnerability? I just cried on a meeting with my entire team. And what I cried about was, this is so hard. And it wasn't like a damsel in distress. It wasn't any of that. It was me vulnerably expressing, like, y'all, there is nobody in this desert with me telling me which direction to go. I don't know anybody who's built a business like this. I don't have mentors who are like, yeah, Lee, I've started an institute and I've done it as a for profit, but also as a socially conscious and responsible organization. And yeah, I've actually fairly paid my team. And yeah, I've actually used trauma informed, psychologically safe principles to instill into my business. And yeah, I don't sell with any manipulative tactics. Like, if somebody has a mentor for me, please give them my name. Please. Some of y'all, you are leading yourselves because nobody around you has ever done this. Nobody around you is regulated. Nobody around you has decided that they can handle things. Nobody around you knows how to do the thing you want to do. And you are dropped in the desert. And guess what? You're going to have to walk. You are going to have to walk at some point, or you will stay there. The likelihood that somebody is going to magically come along and rescue you, it's very, very low. And in fact, maybe you can even see this video as me walking by you in the desert because I got dropped down in there too. And I'm like, hey, we got to pick a direction. Let's just pick a direction. And let's figure out why you are protecting yourself. What were you taught? Because if this is you, please hear me. If you were taught that you make stupid decisions, if you got the messaging that you were impulsive, indecisive, hard-headed, rebellious, if you got the messaging that what you were doing was not in alignment with what the people around you wanted you to do, even though it felt like the right thing for you, if you got the messaging that where your soul is calling you to go is the wrong place, then no wonder you're aimless. Because you got dropped in the desert with this goal, this purpose, this passion, this mission, this drive, this will, this message from God, universe, spirit, whomever. You're like, oh, this is I'm really good at this, and I really want to do this, and I really enjoy this. And then you also got the messaging of, yeah, that way you want to walk, that way out of the desert you want to walk, that's bad, that's wrong. Why do you even want to be in the desert anyway? Why are you even here? Gosh, you make such bad decisions. Anyone? Bueller? I'm dating myself. anyone like 30 and under is like, what are you talking about, Lee? Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Go watch it. Some of you have been telling yourself a story that you were told when you were younger, and you have been telling yourself this story for a very long time, and you have been seeking out people in your life who confirm this story for you, that you don't know what you know, that you don't know how you feel, that you can't make good decisions, that you have to trust other people, that anything that you think is a yes should really be a no, because all of the times you've failed and all of the times you've messed up and all of the times you've done things wrong or bad or immoral or whatever. I'm going to say something a little religious here, okay? Spiritual, I don't even know the right term, but I'm going to say it. This is not an institute perspective. This is a Lee perspective, okay? Anytime you read religious texts in which the being that we are worshiping